Welcome back to our seventh episode where we will work on implementing the SwiftUI for the add habit form. So I'll just show you basically whenever you press on the plus, we want to implement this form here. You'll be able to select an emoji, set a title, a description, and have an add button. If you want to pause the video now, basically don't look into the sheet here, just look inside of what there is. You'll need to create a new Swift UI view, and you'll be able to create this interface inside of it. So if you want to pause it now, look at this. Feel free to pause, otherwise we can follow along. So we'll create a new file in our view, which is going to be a Swift UI. In that view, we'll call it add habit view. And this add habit view, we can remove the text. And basically what we want to have is a VStack to be organizing everything in there. And we'll want a emoji picker, a title, a description, and add button. And for the add button, the logic will be basically this here. So I'll just keep that as a little note. So for the emoji picker, I'm just going to use a regular text field. You'll see I won't implement a full emoji picker. There's already some plugin that exists that you can always use, a package. You can Google some package, add a package, and use that package you find. Personally, for this app, I'm just going to show you how to make some sort of an emoji picker. The text field, the way it works is you'll want to use a binding string. We haven't used that yet so far, any text field. So for now, I'll just use a state variable and let's say call this emoji, and it's going to be a string. And it's going to be equal to an empty string. So the way it works is if you just put emoji and you just call the variable, it's going to give you an error. The reason why is because emoji is a string. Basically, the way it works is when you have a state and you can add a $sign and it makes it binding. Oh, I have a dot here, comma. So the way it works is whenever you have a $sign, it's going to be binding. So if this variable change, the text field value will change. And if the text field value will change, the variable will change. So it's kind of like a back and forth communication between the two. So I have this emoji, and let me actually just add a little emoji as the placeholder that we can see here. We'll have a new text field, which is going to be the title, and let me actually create this 3 times. So one is going to be title, and one is going to be description. And so let's copy this. And let's copy this line actually and just use it as the description here. And instead we'll use description and use this description variable to be our binding string. So we can see we have the 3 text field and we just need the button now. For the button, we'll go with the action label button. Let me actually just use the action label, put an enter. And I want to reuse some components that I already created that would match great for the label, which is going to be found in our welcome view, our little text get started button. I really like that look. I think it would be looking great in our add habit. So we'll use the same look and we'll just basically call it add. So we have the components for our add form. Now we'll want to give it a little bit more personalization. So to do so, first, I want to be able to limit the number of characters for each text field. And somehow this is not something that exists in SwiftUI text field component already object. So what you need to create is to use an extension. I found one on Stack Overflow. I didn't want to go ahead and I was doing some research to try to find if I can find it pre-done by Apple, which is pretty interesting that it's not. But basically on ScreenFlow, you'll be able to find the link in the description below. You have the extension here. You can go ahead and copy it. I'm just going to copy this and use this for our app. So the extension, I'll use it in the same habit view. Technically, it would probably be better to use it inside a new extension window. Just for now, I'm going to use it, an extension file. I'm just going to use it in here for now, since I don't think I'm going to use it anywhere else. Basically, the way it works is it's going to add an extension to our binding variables where the value will be the string that there is. And you have a new function that it has, which is the max function, which you'll have a limit of character input. And this is going to be looking if it's higher than the limit. If it is, you'll just basically make it shorter and it's going to return it. So in the text emoji, you want to now add the max limit and you'll just add 1. So the way it works is that you cannot enter more than 1 character in here. And it's the same for the title. I'll put a limit of maybe like something like 25 characters, which I think is pretty good. And a description, I'm going to use a max of maybe like 70. And some of you might say, why using a max? One of the reasons is that I don't want someone to put a massive paragraph and create a weird interface for our buttons. I prefer to have some sort of control over it so it doesn't mess up the UI. And basically for the styling, I want to limit the frame, which is going to be of a width of 60. I want to max out the font. So font, I'll use a dot system size and I'm going to use 60. I feel like the hand is missing a little bit. So maybe I'm just going to use actually here 65. There you go. And I want to have no, that's it for now. Title, I want to make it bigger, so I'm just going to use a font title. And I'm going to use the font weight. I'm going to increase the font weight to something like bold. Font weight dot bold. And for the text field description, I'm going to do something similar. Font, I'm going to use a title too. And I'm fine with this, but I do want, the way it works, the text field, you'll see if I type a lot of stuff in there, it just continues on the same line. It's not the greatest, but this is the way it works. And you can see if I type more, the last character is going to be removed and it's going to be adjusted, but this doesn't look good. The way to make it multi-line alignment, is to add the axis and you can set it up to vertical. Now when you write, it's gonna automatically jump into new lines if you have multiple words, multiple lines. And the alignment is already leading, but before I get any issues, I want to put a multi-line alignment text dot leading. I don't want to create issues so later on where it's going to be centered or whatever. And for the VStack, I like to put the alignment, even though it's already centered, I want to make sure it stays centered, and I want to have a spacing between the items. I'm going to put something like 20. So you have a bit more room. And the VStack, I also want to add a padding so we have a little bit more room at the beginning as well. Now, if we remember here, our items are pretty much at the top. That gives you room for the keyboard. The way to do it, if you remember, is to use a spacer, and it moves everything to the top. And I find that it's too high to the top, so this one I'll go and add a padding, which is going to be a padding at the top of 30, which is the same that I did for our habitless view. So you can see here the form has been designed, and it looks the same as this one here. And now that we have this form design, what I want to create is the habitless view to be able to use that form when you click on the plus. To do so, to be able to create a sheet on your view, you'll want to go down at the scroll view and create a sheet. So for the sheet, on the is presented, you'll want to use a new binding variable again. So we'll create a new state, which is going to be a var that's going to be called show add habit form, which equals to by default false. We don't want to show that form. And we'll set that here with the $, show add habit form, and the content is going to be add habit view. For the add habit view, we want to add at the bottom the presentation drag indicator, and we want it visible. And when you look at the button, the action, you'll want to code an action in here, which is basically our show habit form. We want to set it to true. And so when you look and you click on plus now, you have that little pop-up form, and the drag indicator is that little thing here that shows that if you drag it down, it will dismiss it. You know what, actually, I might just use the toggle, which is probably cleaner. So it's going to be setting it to true. I just prefer the toggle, so if there's any issues. And so we have our little form that is created now. We'll go ahead and look into the logic in the next video. We'll go ahead and code down dismiss on how to add and all in the next video. So if you like, don't forget to put a thumbs up. If you have any question, you can always leave your comment down below. And otherwise, subscribe if you want to keep track of the next video. Have a great day and enjoy.